Everyone. I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit and Bus Committee. Let's get started with our safety announcement.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
Okay. I'm happy to open up today's committee meeting by acknowledging Women's History Month, although it's almost over. New York is a special place to pay tribute to women's history. The suffrages and women's rights movement began in New York State in 1848. I'm so proud that this great state is led by Governor Kathy Hochul, our 57th governor and the first woman governor of the state of New York. Governor Hochul is preceded by so many accomplished New York women, from Susan B. Anthony to Shirley Chisholm to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And there are so many female trailblazers whose contributions to this great state and nation are immeasurable. I'm also particularly proud of our own leaders in transit and, of course, the many women in leadership positions here at the MTA. I'm also reminded that so many of our employees and frontline workers are women who must balance home life as primary caregivers and as the family's sole means of support. As an organization, we must continue to foster ways to empower women and improve gender equality in the workplace. As the chair of the New York City Transit Committee, I will continue to work with this board and executive leadership team to look for opportunities and ways to empower women and remove barriers that they may face in accessing leadership roles. All right, now we're ready to move on to our public speakers.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
we
morning.
have 13 members of the public registered to speak today. 9 are in person and 4 are virtual. We will start. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and in fairness to all the speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Yvette Wilson, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. My name is Yvette Wilson. I'm a mother of 2 children under 2 years old and continue to be a direct support professional to individuals with disabilities. My colleagues and I at BCID are here today to bring to this committee's attention the importance of accessibilities for individuals who use wheelchairs on MTA buses. When my children were still using strollers, drivers would not even allow me to enter the bus with an open stroller, not that I would have considered it, let alone occupy the space on the bus that had been specifically designated for wheelchairs. It is important to note that only 2 spots on the bus designated for wheelchairs, specifically designed to accommodate a wheelchair securely and safely for wheelchair passenger as well as other passengers. Considering using that space for an open stroller that cannot be secured is a safety hazard, not only to the child in the stroller, but other passengers as well. We appreciate that you have decided to pull together a task force that will look into this issue, including the input of those that will be directly affected. I urge that the final rule is inclusive and will not infringe on the rights of wheelchair users while safely allowing mothers with strollers to travel as well. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Jason Anthony, followed by Lisa Daglian.
Good morning, Hilda, Greg, and the rest of the board members. Jason Anthony from AOU. As you guys know, my co-workers are an important election that is going on today. But I'm bringing your attention that the union that represents the bus drivers in Staten Island is leaving stranded my co-workers. And who are we talking about? The ATU Local 726. I work in Amazon's Gfk in Staten Island, that is located on the Bluefield section of Staten Island. You have workers entering at 6:15, 7:15, and getting out at 4:45, 5:45, etc., etc. These drivers leave stranded my coworkers even times that when the drivers get to the facility, they oftentimes go out of service with no explanation, Frank Annie Carroll. I want an explanation why all Staten Island bus drivers do this. And every time that we want to contact the union, they do things behind the scenes. Why it has to be behind the scenes? Why is it that Danny Casellas is nowhere to be found? Why? And every time that we take every bus in Staten Island, the vast majority of the passengers is not paying the fare. What is going on here in Staten Island? I'll see you guys at the next meeting.
Our next speaker is Lisa Daglian, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. We're thrilled that Rich Davey has been named as Permanent Transit President and are eager to meet him. We're excited to work with him for faster, more reliable, and equitable transit and on new funding options. We also thank Craig Cipriano for his tireless work and true dedication as Interim Transit President. He was the right person at the right time to get riders where they needed to go during a very difficult period. We're not quite done with you yet, Craig. We're excited to continue working with you as COO. Congratulations on your new role, and thank you on behalf of the New York City Transit Riders Council and all riders. As we embark on this new path forward, we're particularly excited about the reintroduction of the Queens bus redesign. After a 2-year hiatus, Transit was able to really sit with rider concerns and recommendations to revamp the plan. We hope it includes improvements like truly dedicated bus lanes and increased transit signal priority to speed travel, and improved connections to subway and commuter rail stations to create a more integrated system. And with the planned IBX, transit options will dramatically improve for Brooklyn and Queens riders, helping complete the vision. In order to get riders back on board and feeling safe, we're glad that there is improved cooperation between the city, state, and MTA. We're hopeful the SOS teams and subway action and subway safety plan will produce real results for riders and those in need. We hope to see results and data on defining success as the city and state iron out the details and formulate a strong plan to address a host of issues plaguing our city and transit system that riders know too well. We'll continue to work with you on these issues and many more to help our system and our city bounce back from the pandemic and provide transit riders with more services and the services that they need and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Ralph Spielman.
Good morning. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United, and I want to talk about the R as in Romeo line that runs in South Brooklyn. We're getting a lot of complaints of huge 30-minute headways. We're also getting complaints about the lack of transfers, from a local to an express train, especially at 59th Street and 36th Street. And, with the new shuttle buses now, people are complaining the shuttle buses are overcrowded. So that's something that has to be worked on, especially overnight. And the homeless situation on the Romeo R line as well. Now, I also want to talk about GFK Airport. I was there yesterday. I spent 3 hours at the airport. The Q3 was a complete mess. The drivers were lost. And I got video of all of that. And then the bus stop signs inside the airport are so high up, you cannot see them. And a lot of the drivers were not trained. So that has to be worked out in terms of getting to the airport. And then the Q10, building number 12 in GFK Airport is served. A lot of workers who work in building 12 need the Q10 limited and the Q10 local to stop there. So a lot of the airport employees were very upset yesterday. A lot of people were late. I got phone calls and I ran to the airport. I also want to say that it's been 1 year since the anniversary of Gabit Goebel. And unfortunately, as we're seeing, the subway crime is going up. We're seeing people with shopping carts. Nothing is changing. In fact, the subways are getting more dangerous and even worse than before. So I want to know today, what is the status of the SOS teams? How many homeless individuals have been served? And what is the numbers on the police deployment? Again, we need to know. We need answers. We deserve that. And we need clean trains. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ralph Spielman, followed by Elizabeth Valdez.
Good morning, Interim President Cipriano, board members, staff, and concerned fellow New Yorkers. In a recent poll conducted by the Partnership of New York, 74% of public transit commuters say safety on transit has gotten worse since the beginning of the pandemic. A few word pictures for you. 2 Saturdays ago, a group of high school students came through the turnstiles on the downtown side of the number 1 West 110th Street station. I was there. 2 police officers on the inside of the gates were unmasked, and they did not mention that it is a federal law to mask within all U.S. transportation facilities. I had to take it upon myself to find the group leader and inform him of this. Transit police are sworn to uphold the law, and here they failed miserably. As of yesterday, Manhattan Valley, Morningside Heights, Upper West Side saw 177 new cases of COVID and a 4% 7-day positivity rate, double that of New York State. While waiting at a northbound platform for a 123 train at Penn Station, where a weekday overnight project was starting, there was a delay of some time. Finally, a number 2 train pulled in, and almost half of the people boarding were not wearing masks. And also, too, on the number 11 bus, I saw 5 people sneak in through the back between 14th Street and 42nd Street. There are lots and lots of problems with the buses, and the Transit Authority needs to educate riders, every rider, all the tourists that are coming in, about all these rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Valdez is our next speaker, followed by Lorenza Galliote.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Valdez, the Systems Advocate at the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled, aka BCID. I'm here to speak about bus accessibility. While I understand that the MTA is holding off on changing its policy about designated spaces on buses for passengers who use wheelchairs, I did want to make sure the board and staff understand why allowing other passengers to place their strollers in this location would be a problem. As a person with a disability, it wouldn't be fair that I would have to compete for my designated spot. It's not logical to force me to share this space when it's the only place that I fit on the bus. Someone with a stroller can get on or off the bus whether they have a specific spot or not. Moreover, a situation like this in New York City would only create chaos and slow down the buses. The best solution, in my opinion, would be to assign a spot for strollers in the back and also to encourage riders to limit stroller size. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lorenza Galliote, followed by Stephanie Garrett.
Good morning, all. My name is Lorena Galliot. I live with my husband and our 4-month daughter in Brooklyn. I really appreciated hearing the testimony from the community with people with disabilities and riding wheelchairs in buses. I'm calling in as a parent, to call in the MTA to relax the very strict stroller policy. But I do want to make clear to me and to the other parents that I've been discussing this with, this is not and does not have to be and should not be a stroller versus wheelchair situation. The way we see it, it's passengers with wheelchairs first, seniors second, and parents with young children strollers third. If a passenger in a wheelchair needs to mount, passenger in wheelchair gets priority, stroller, if needed, is folded. But if there is room on the bus, as there often is in daytime hours where mothers with very young babies need to travel, the open stroller policy, the stroller policy should be relaxed, and open strollers should be allowed and shared in the spots where potentially a passenger with disability in a wheelchair would mount. This is not a safety issue in my eyes. There is no world where taking a baby out of a stroller, holding it with one arm with no place to put it, while attempting to fold the stroller in the other arm, is safely than mounting a baby securely strapped in a locked stroller and putting it in a designated spot. I agree with the previous speaker who said that a spot for open strollers at the back of the bus would be ideal, a separate designated spot. But in the meantime, sharing existing space seems like something that I would call on the MTA to at least consider to relax it, because with the policy currently in place, the MTA is effectively telling all families with young children, you can't ride our buses. You're not welcome. Your children are not welcome. These are not for you. And is that really what New York City is about? Thank you all.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephanie Garrett, followed by Murray Bowden.
Hi. I want to say that I agree with a lot of the parents here regarding the stroller policy. I just want to ask a question. Have you ever seen a very pregnant woman attempting to get on a bus with an upset toddler and a stroller that just won't close, and then get yelled at by a frustrated MTA employee because they're late? I have, because I was that very pregnant woman with twins, with my 1-year-old, trying to get on a bus, getting yelled at by an MTA employee. It's just not possible for people with young children. I'm not even saying one child is impossible. 2 or 3 children on a bus with a stroller, it's not even imaginable. I can't even take my kids into the city anymore to ride the bus. If there are no disabled elderly people on the bus, then open strollers should be permitted using priority seating area during non-peak hours. Relaxed stroller policy during non-peak hours should be possible, and open strollers should always be fully permitted on weekends and holidays. It's just unimaginable how other people cannot let strollers on the bus. Sorry, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Murray Bowden, followed by Danielle Avasar.
Good morning. I'm interested in increasing bus speeds to encourage more riders. One way to do that is to make the roads safer. When you make the roads safer, there are less accidents and less reasons for ambulances, fire engines, police guns to come to a scene of an accident. One way to do that is to give drivers better information on where their lane of traffic goes. Tomorrow morning, I'll be meeting with the safety officer of bridge and tunnels to discuss how bridge and tunnel roadways can be made safer. the extension of what is developed for bridge and tunnels can be developed for the city of New York. Reducing accidents saves money because repair, injuries. This is all about global warming and doing everything we can to reduce unnecessary incidents that slow everybody down. This is a changing world. I just noticed this next table next to me. That shows progress. There's a recognition that somebody can come up and speak from a podium like I do from a chair. Somebody is thinking of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Danielle Avasar, followed by Alita Dupree.
Hello, I came to address the board last month regarding the current bus policy for folding strollers. I'm super glad that some people from the other side came up to speak today because I really think that we could reach a middle ground here. Last month, it generated a lot of press on us parents wanting to relax the stroller policy, and I just want to be really clear that we're asking for a reasonable request. We want to be third in line to the disabled and the elderly. It's not us versus them, and we should not be pitted against each other for space. Loose children are not safe on moving buses, and strollers should be able to remain open if there are no wheelchair or elderly needing the designated areas. I also hope that the new MTA bus designs have taken parents and strollers into consideration. City parents rely on public transportation just like everyone else, and I urge you to please change the policy. I would not be taking time off of work to come and address the board in person if this wasn't in the way of everyday life. Everyday New Yorkers like myself raising children in the city need it, and we should not be humiliated by bus drivers or felt that we are not welcome and told, take an Uber or buy a car. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Alita Dupree and then Andy Pollack.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Hope you can hear me. Alita Dupree, for the record, my pronouns are she and her. Always good to be back with you. You never have enough subway, a stately American institution. Omni has had fare capping for 4 weeks now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what our data is going to be. And with that, I advocate that we work toward getting it enabled in the reduced fare system. I hope to be back on the system soon, and I'll pay the full fare if I have to so I can use Omni fare capping, because I'm tired of damaged MetroCard stories. But not everybody can do that, nor should they feel they need to do that. So we have a lot more work to do. And I would like to see this. So that's very important for transit and the railroads as well. And building our electric bus network. There's a bus system in our neighbor to the west in California called the Antelope Valley Transit Authority. They have an all-electric bus fleet. And, well, I think we can do that too. We just have to scale it up and develop the renewable energy to power it. There's another system in California called BART. I'm sure some of you have seen it. They use about 250 million kilowatt hours of renewable energy. That's not enough to run our subway, but you could probably run Grand Central Terminal with it. We have lots of examples to follow, but we also have many ways that we lead. I want the best for our system. It's a system that I not just use, but enjoy for a half century. I look forward to your discussion today, and I thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andy Pollack, followed by Madeline Rummel.
Hi, good morning, Hada. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to make this brief because I'm at work. So 2 points I actually wanted to bring up this month. The first point I wanted to bring up was regarding face masks. Now, I hope most of you, while riding the subway in person this morning, grabbed a copy of AM New York because they had a full article on mask compliance. And obviously, we know on transit, the federal mask requirement is going to end on Monday, April 18th. And I am certainly looking forward to that day, given my point is I'm not looking forward to spending another summer wearing a mask on a subway platform. I did it last summer when I returned to the system, and it was a miserable experience. My face was sweating, and I did not like it, not one bit. So I'm hoping the TSA and the CDC are going to work together to work on the new requirements. They're hopefully going to come out with it sometime next week during the first full week of April. And I know the major airline CEOs are also asking for it to be lifted. And my last point this month, I want to discuss the Queens Bus redesign. It is the end of the first quarter. Where is the second draft? I keep refreshing the website, and there's no PDF. Where is it? Because a lot of us in Queens are eagerly waiting for it. So, as I said, I'm going to be vocal about the changes, and that's all I'm going to say for this month because there's other people on the line. So thank you very much, and take care.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Madeline Rummel, followed by Natalie Margie.
Hi, my name's Madeline Rumley. I'm a native New Yorker. I've been riding the 1 and the 9 train and the M4 bus since before I could walk myself. The MTA deserves a lot of credit for the improvements over the last 36 years that I've been in the system. I grew up in Washington Heights and Upper Manhattan, and I love the new dedicated bus lanes that you all put in. Thank you. I now live in Brooklyn, and I have a full-time job. I rely on the buses and the subways to get my son, my 2-year-old son, to school, and my husband and I to get to work in Midtown, where I was this morning before I came here. As a mom, I see the MTA can make some small improvements to make the system accessible for everyone, especially parents, usually moms traveling alone with children. Children in open strollers are allowed in buses in Boston, Chicago, LA, DC, London, Paris, and Atlanta. The MARTA system has designed train cars with dedicated wheelchair and stroller areas. Parents, grandparents, and caregivers need a safe space on the bus dedicated to infants who, much like those in wheelchairs and the elderly, can't balance on a moving bus. I often travel to Crown Heights and Dyker Heights in Brooklyn, which aren't accessible by train, and I rely on the bus. Too often, I've had to wake up my sleeping baby, drag him out of his stroller, and hold him with my bags in the snow and in the rain while I'm getting yelled at, holding up everybody on the bus. I don't want to make any trouble for anybody. I just would like to have a space for myself and other caregivers on the bus in the city where I live and have loved living for my whole life. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Natalie Margie, followed by Andy Quito.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Margie. I have 2 kids who are now 5 and 2. My family and I live in Prospect Heights. Like most New Yorkers, we don't own a car, so we rely on public transportation to get around. The current requirement to fold strollers on buses is less safe and exacerbates the isolation of families and restricts their mobility. I deeply appreciate the concerns raised by wheelchair users and completely agree with the prioritization mentioned by speakers before me. This is not a wheelchair versus stroller issue. If there are multiple wheelchair or stroller users, people can also wait for the next bus if there's that many at a time. While it's so often filled with so much joy, having young children can also feel isolating at times, especially at the beginning. Getting out of the house can feel like a challenge, and if you also have to navigate a public transportation system that's not family friendly, that makes things unnecessarily hard. Given that most subway stations are largely inaccessible, buses would seem preferable, which they are in many cities around the world, as a previous speaker mentioned. Being forced to fold a stroller filled with stuff while holding a child on a moving bus is completely unreasonable, not to mention a lot less safe than simply locking the stroller and leaving the child strapped in there, as others have pointed out. What this meant for me in practice was that I mostly gave up on using buses and subways, so I was limited to only going places that were walking distance, which exacerbated feelings of isolation. This also brings up equity concerns for low-income New Yorkers or folks who don't live in areas with a lot of parks or amenities and who face additional obstacles in accessing family-friendly services or spaces. Families across the city will have a radically improved experience of our beautiful city if you change the current policies and decide to allow open strollers on buses. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andy Quito, followed by Chris Greif. Okay, Andy was with us virtually, but I guess he's no longer there. So our final two speakers of the day will be Chris Greif and Joe Report.
Good morning. I'm Christopher D. Greif. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Kamal Q. Good morning, Victor, as well as Andrew. Just three things I just want to add. I agree about the baby strollers, and just to remind you, it is difficult to get them on the bus. But as right now, we know that we're going to see new buses coming in soon with that. But to remind you, baby strollers are like walkers. We also got to remember we also have walkers also that do have to enter the bus as well, and they do all go to the single seats area. You know, I want to thank Q as well as our system-wide accessibility staff that have put signs up on some buses. We still need to continue that signages to remind them that a lot of the children might have early intervention to have a disability, and some of those strollers are called stroller wheelchairs too. So we need to remind the drivers to take it easy a little bit too, because we have to think of safety for everyone. That's even including a little baby as well. The main issue also we need to work on, I know Sarah Myers heard me last time at the railroad, but we still got to continue again. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah's over there. I'm sorry. I'm used to her over here. Sorry. Mask requirement. As somebody has mentioned earlier, and I agree with everyone, there is a lot of people are not still wearing masks. Yes, you have the computer screens, but not all stations, not all buses have the signs. And that's also in Queens as well. I was on a bus in Queens. I have not seen one sign. Some people are wearing masks, some are not. We, as you know, tomorrow is Mta Mask Force. We need the signs up. Chief, we need your assistance with the transit cops to work together. I have worked with Transit 34 very well, and they were out there on the Brighton line. Caught 3 people not wearing a mask, and they were wearing masks. So there is some progress. We just need we have the Mask Force team tomorrow. Can you please have the officers work together so we can remind people by state and federal law we must wear a mask? Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker for today will be Joe Rapport.
Good morning. I'm Joseph Rappaport of the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled. A few of my colleagues have testified about New York City Transit suggesting that it might open the space reserved for people with wheelchairs for open strollers. And I want to make it clear that no one opposes making it easier for parents and other caretakers to ride buses and subways. But we're pleased that you're holding off on moving forward with this idea as originally proposed, which would create unnecessary conflict between drivers, caretakers, and disabled people in wheelchairs, which would happen unquestionably. Other transit authorities have dealt with this by opening up space further back in the bus, as some people have suggested. And we really look forward to sitting down with you, with parents, with drivers, and the union, and other disability groups to come up with a plan that actually works and doesn't deprive wheelchair users of a federally mandated right. In the meantime, there's a lot that the MTA can do to make it easier for people in wheelchairs and caretakers with children in strollers. Step 1, settle our 5-year-old lawsuits, we're coming on the anniversary soon, over subway accessibility. And that would add elevators around the system, which would help everyone. Step 2, work to solve the gap problem in the subways, which would help wheelchair users and stroller users as well. And step 3, add bus service and end the practice of eliminating bus stops. We look forward to working with you on these questions and others. Thanks very much.
Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, everyone. We'll now have a couple of words from Jano.
So I've made it a bad habit of interrupting the business of this committee to add a few thoughts. One is I just wanted to underscore what happened last week, which is that we named a permanent president for New York City Transit, which has been we've been waiting to accomplish for a couple of years now. It's somebody who I think is amazingly qualified. I think by far the best candidate out there anywhere. Rich Davey is currently a partner at BCG. He's the co-lead of their state and local government practice, but in his prior life served as Secretary of Transportation to Governor Deval Patrick in Massachusetts, where he oversaw not just mass transit, but also the Massachusetts Port Authority and the state DOT. He ran the MBTA, Boston's transit system. He ran the commuter railroad. And in what I think of as an important sign of what kind of a consensus builder he is, he was selected by the city fathers and mothers to helm the Boston's effort to secure the 2024 Olympic bid. We all know that Olympic bids are frequently unsuccessful. We in New York know that well. But to be selected for that is a sign that you are somebody who really works well with everybody in town. Rich is coming into a strong operation, and one of the reasons I wanted to speak was just to emphasize this point. Craig has done an incredible job over the last 8 months as the interim president. Craig. And I'm thrilled that Craig has agreed to stay on as transit COO and to accomplish the transition and to help Rich set up his new operation, his new team. One of the side effects of all this movement is that Pat Warren, who has also done double duty as temporarily the transit COO, dating back to the Sarah Feinberg era, will be able to focus on the small job of being Chief of Safety and Security for the MTA. Thank you for that. But I want to thank both Craig and Pat and all of the transit leadership. I'm looking over at Demetrius and Frank as well for providing incredibly strong service during challenging times. Let us not forget, we've heard we've heard some comments from the podium and otherwise about service, but transit service on-time performance exceeds pre-COVID levels. We have to make it better. We want to make it better, but you have already shown you're up to the task. Now, on a more somber note, we have to note that this is the 2-year anniversary of the murder of one of our New York City Transit team members, transit motorman Garrett Goebel. We'll never forget Garrett's service and his sacrifice rescuing passengers after a senseless arson attack that, by the way, took place using a shopping cart. Our thoughts today are with Garrett and his family. He will never be forgotten, and he will continue to fire our bad choice of words. He will continue to power our passion for making the subway system safer. I've been working on this since I moved into the chair on an acting basis six or 7 months ago, and I'm grateful to have a mayor and a governor who also are 100% behind us on the issue of trying to make the subway system and our mass transit system in general much safer. I also want to recognize the efforts of the NYPD, represented here as always by Chief of Transit Bureau Jason Wilcox, who is an incredible partner, but also on a daily basis by Police Commissioner Keechant Sewell. These are people that we have really started to work really closely with, and I just need everybody to understand how hard they are working. It is going to take time. There's no question that the conditions that are being experienced on the subway system, we heard again from some of our extended family who comments from the podium about what they're seeing and experiencing. We all know there's a long way to go, but we do have an incredible partnership with the city. Last week I went out in the 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and saw some of the operations at the end of line stations where we're trying, with the assistance of BRC workers, of Department of Homeland Services workers, of outreach workers, and backed up by the NYPD, to encourage homeless folks or folks who are riding around on the system to accept services and shelter. It's early days in changing that pattern, but the effort is really extraordinary, and I saw it with my own eyes, and I just want to tell you, we're going to keep pushing. And we're also, with the assistance of the NYPD, going to keep pushing for the rules of conduct to be enforced, because part of what we're hearing from riders is they want, with no disrespect and no lack of compassion for some of our fellow New Yorkers who are struggling with all kinds of issues, including mental health issues, but they do want and expect a system that feels safe and it feels orderly, and the NYPD is going to help us to accomplish that by enforcing the rules of conduct, and we need that and we want it. Obviously, coming back to the anniversary of Garrett Goebels, that set of rules includes exclusion of large shopping carts, not things that people use, not the stand-up shopping carts that we all know that people in New York frequently use to shop and to take laundry around and so on, but the bigger ones that are from, a suburban type supermarket and that have been responsible for so many of our dangerous conditions. We know how dangerous they can be, and the PD, among their many other goals, is working to honor Garrett's memory by making sure that stops being a problem in the system. So with that, let me turn you back to your regular business. Thank you, Chair Mihalcis, for the courtesy.
Thank you, Jano. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 22 meeting. Andrew, tell us what we've missed.
It's minor, but on the list of public speakers, Charlton D'Souza's name is spelled D-E instead of D''S.
Okay.
So with that correction.
Okay. Do I have a second? Randy, David, all those in favor? Against? All right, motion passed. Thank you. Okay. I'm now going to turn it over to Greg. Greg, are there any changes in the work plan?
There are no changes.
Okay. So can you please start us off with the President's report?
Thanks. And, I just want to start off by saying, thank you, Jano, for those, those words of recognition, and, really excited to continue to work here in a leadership role in transit, work with this amazing leadership team, and work with, incoming, President Richard Davey. Really excited. So it was a great opportunity, and I thank everyone here.
You're not going anywhere, Greg.
No, not going anywhere. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for starting off our meeting by recognizing some of the accomplished women from New York State. I know firsthand the tremendous contributions from our female workforce. Over 40% of New York City Transit's leadership team are women. You can see many of them around this table today. I'm proud to recognize not only our colleagues in leadership roles, but also all the women who show up day in and day out to get New Yorkers where they need to go. I appreciate their challenges and meeting the demands at New York City Transit. I'm honored to work with you, and I thank you for your commitment. Now on to the stroller policy. Last month, I had told the committee I'd like to revisit our stroller policy to determine how we might permit open strollers on buses. We heard our customers' feedback, both the need for enhanced access on buses from caregivers with strollers and from disability advocates who are concerned with the potential conflicts and impact to their access. To address this, we are going to convene an advisory group composed of bus operators, disability advocates, and caregivers who use strollers. The group will assess these issues and report to me on their findings. As soon as that work is done, we will come back to this committee for an update. I'd like to welcome Chris Pangilinan. I'm excited to introduce Chris, our new Vice President of Paratransit, reporting directly to me in the Office of the President. This now brings our paratransit services on par with subways and buses, as our three core operations managed at New York City Transit. We will hear from Chris in just a few minutes, and you will get to know him better in the coming weeks and months. But I can tell you that Chris is a dedicated transit professional, and we are so happy he is here to lead our paratransit team. I also want to take this opportunity to thank both Frank and Don Ramundi, over here, for their leadership and dedication to our paratransit customers. Homeless and safety. a homeless and safety update, I'm sorry. We will have a full subway safety and security report later, but I'd like to update the committee on all the great work and collaboration happening between New York City Transit, NYPD, and DHS. The governor and mayor have committed to improving safety in our system, and the mayor has specifically said how we all need to do better. What I want to say is that while there is a lot of work to do, there is already a lot of work underway, and it continues on a daily and nightly basis. Chief Wilcox has been making good on his first-day commitment to increase police presence in our subway stations and platforms. We have established a joint coordination center between the NYPD and New York City Transit at our RCC to handle significant incidents that are reported by employees and customers in real time. This information is gathered, synthesized, and deployed to the field to support rapid action and tracking. Every night, subway employees are supporting the city's deployment of teams of police and healthcare professionals who conduct onboard train operations to assist those suffering from mental health issues or homelessness. And most recently, the NYPD, Mta PD, and New York City Department of Homeless Services has started joint overnight security and outreach operations at 4 end-of-line stations to address issues at those stations and to offer critical social and health services to those who are suffering and attempting to shelter in our subway. We are committed to delivering the most dependable, safe, and quality service possible, and will continue to pursue these programs that can support this goal. On to ridership. I'm pleased to report that we're seeing good, consistent ridership numbers. Our latest numbers are coming in at about 4.8 million riders, or about 60% of our pre-pandemic levels. Our highest ridership is on March 10th, when subway ridership was over 3.34 million. We have seen 17 days in March with ridership coming in over 3 million so far, 13 of which have been consecutive. Buses had almost 1.5 million riders on March 16th, and paratransit had 25,000 trips on that same day. Lastly, our workforce. We have all faced many challenges during the different phases of this pandemic, and throughout we have used these challenges as opportunities to find new, creative ways to improve and ensure we deliver strong, consistent service. I know we can agree that delivering service and being the backbone to New York's recovery depends on our greatest resource, our workforce. As we have been saying here, we have remained focused on hiring and training new employees and have successfully managed to onboard more than 1,000 bus and train operators and conductors through training faster while maintaining transit's rigorous training and safety requirements. As a result, our service delivery numbers have consistently improved month over month, but our business is not about numbers. It's about people, and we want all of you to get to know a few of our newest MTA family, and we have a video to introduce you here. One issue we've been tackling all fall here in New York City Transit is our crew shortages. And what I'm proud to say is that right now we have thousands of train operators, conductors, and bus operators, brand new, that we've trained and are now operating throughout the city of New York. They've been operating so that you, New York City, could come back to the subway system and our bus system. Hi, Craig Cipriano, interim president of New York City Transit. These thousands of men and women are out there each and every day providing great service. We have 3 million customers coming back to our subways today, about 1.2 million coming back to buses, and we're well on our way to a full recovery. And New York, as you recover, we're going to be here to support you.
I have been a train operator by myself for 4 weeks now. I love it so far. Learning a lot. It's a lot of hard work, but it's fun. It's like the funnest job.
My previous jobs, there was not much opportunity out there, so I found an opportunity, which is the MTA, so I really just chased after it.
I took all the city tests, but train operator was one that I was actually more excited for, was something that I got called for as soon as possible. I was excited, man. My father was actually a conductor for 35 years. As soon as he retired, I came in as a train operator. It's cool, you know, at least to me it is.
I dream of becoming a bus driver since I was a young person. And I'm planning to have a career here.
My dad rode on my train yesterday. I was on the A line and he was very impressed by the way I operated the train. So he's really proud that he's telling everybody that I'm a conductor.
We get the city going. We take people, you know, from work to home and back. We take kids to and from school, so it means a lot.
It's a good career for me and my family, and I can do better.
One great story for me that came out of our aggressive crew hiring is a story about bus operator Quentin Miller. Quentin reached out And sure enough, we were able to help Quentin get his permit, and I'm proud to say that he reached back out and said, Craig, I've achieved my lifelong dream. I'm driving a bus today on Gun Hill Road. The MTA has been my family for the last 33 years, and it could be your family as well. So if you're interested in joining our MTA family, please go to our MTA website. We post all our open positions there, and we look forward to seeing you here real soon. That concludes the President's report.
Any questions for Craig? Andrew?
Not a question, but where do you think you are on the crew shortages? Because just now I'm seeing for the C train, we're running as much service as we can with the crews we have available.
Sure. So as we've been saying, we believe we'll be back to pre-pandemic levels second quarter. So April, May, and June will really be, again, train operators specifically, originally took 7 to 8 months to train. We were able to streamline that a little bit, closer to 6 to 7 months.
Yeah.
So April, May, June, you're going to see a lot more train operators graduating, and we'll be in a much better place. But, we've been doing a lot of things over time, as you've been seeing in the numbers, to improve service, service delivered month over month. Demetrius and team are doing a fantastic job, as well as Frank and the team. So that's where we'll be.
Thank you.
Surely.
Any other comments or questions for Craig? All right. We'll now hear from Demetrius. Morning, Demetrius.
Good morning. Thank you, Ada.
You're welcome.
Good morning, all. I'd like to share what efforts Subways has undertaken to make the customer experience more reliable. I'm pleased to report performance gains made in February that directly reflect the customer experience. Weekday service delivered rose to 93.9%. It's the highest point since last April. For the first time since the crew shortages began, nearly all individual lines were above 90% service delivered. Additional platform time, or the time beyond schedule the average customer waits for a train, was down 12 seconds or 13% since just 2 months ago. Similarly, the number of trips canceled due to crew availability decreased by 2/3 over the same period. Our aggressive hiring and training efforts have proven successful in making trains available for customers, shortening wait time, and providing more service each day. While we are running additional service, February also saw dips to some operational metrics, including major incidents and delays from internal and external incidents. Some of these increases are due to operating more trains. Of the 400 additional trips that we ran each day in February compared to December, some are bound to be delayed en route. We also attribute some internal delays to seasonal weather. For example, snowmelt and salt from winter snowstorms caused some track and signal problems. Residual were late in January, and also some storms in early February as well. Delays from external incidents were up 11% compared to January, demonstrating the need for the subway safety plan. Thanks to our partnership with the city and state on this effort, early indications show these delays are already down in March. In all cases, Subways is carefully tracking our ever-changing operating environment and addressing the root causes for delays. Overall, we see the customer experience becoming more reliable. Customer journey time performance, or the percentage of individual customer trips that are made on time, is up to 83.6%. This is a half percentage higher than last year and has been improving over the last several months. We look forward to continuing our upward trajectory and making the customer experience faster and more consistent. Once again, I'd like to thank my colleagues in Subways for their hard work and focus on bettering the riding experience for our customers. And I'd be remiss if I didn't speak to Women's History Month. I'd like to recognize the extraordinary efforts of the 5,000 women in Subways who have taken on what some would consider to be non-traditional roles and excel at it daily, making strides as conductors, train operators, track workers, signal maintainers, car inspectors, and a host of other titles, as well as excelling in these positions, the roles of Vice President of Vice President and Chief Mechanical Officer, like Sue Coe, Vice President of Operations Support, like Jackie Cools, and previously Chief Track Officer, currently Acting Chief Officer of the Rail Control Center, like Terry Rump. I am proud to work alongside them. One of the great strengths in subways, in our workforce, in our team, is the diversity it welcomes and the commitment it breeds. Together, our team looks forward to making continued improvements in the coming months. This continues my operating report.
All right. Thank you, Demetrius. Any questions for Demetrius? Okay. If not, we'll move over to Frank. Move to Frank for update on buses and paratransit.
Thank you, Hader. Good morning. I'm happy to report that bus performance continued to improve in February despite 2 snowstorms. Service delivered was 94.6%, 3.3% higher than January and 3.7% higher than February of 21. We also saw similar improvements in weight assessment and additional bus stop time. These improvements reflect our aggressive efforts to address the operator shortages and our strong commitment to service management. However, as New York recovers, we see a clear spike in traffic, with bus speeds dipping down to 8.1 miles per hour in February, close to our pre-pandemic average of 8 miles per hour. This stresses the importance of well-enforced bus priority to increase bus speeds and improve travel times for our customers. I want to thank Mayor Adams for his commitment to implement 150 miles of new bus lanes and busways by the end of his first term in 2025. We continue to work hard alongside our city partners to meet key bus priority milestones this year. As you know, fundamental to our bus plan is a complete redesign of the bus network. I am pleased to announce that tomorrow we will be releasing a new Queens Bus Network redesign draft plan. The hallmark of our redesign effort is the extent to which we listen to our customers, advocates, elected officials, and other stakeholders. We received more than 11,000 comments about the previously proposed draft plan. The new draft plan is more robust as a result of this extensive feedback. To be clear, this is a new draft plan, not the final plan. This spring and summer, the MTA will be holding 14 virtual public workshops and other public engagements to make sure that we continue to hear from our riders, advocates, and other stakeholders. Once this outreach has concluded, we will issue a proposed final plan, followed by additional public engagement. The proposed final plan will ultimately be subject to a public hearing at a date to be announced. I look forward to updating you on all of our efforts in the upcoming months as we work towards making this a defining year for buses. And finally, in celebration of Women's History Month, I want to recognize the 3,000 women in bus operations whose contributions to the bus system is beyond measure. Our ability to innovate and implement solutions and provide the great service our riders deserve would not be possible without them. I am proud and honored to work alongside so many great women. This concludes the bus report.
Thank you, Frank. Any questions for Frank? Okay, if not, we move on to Chris, our new head of paratransit. Welcome, Chris. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good morning, everyone. As a longtime transit rider and disability advocate, I am honored to return to the MTA to work alongside our talented team here at Paratransit. I come here with a worldview shaped by over 17 years of experience in the transit industry. This time has included serving in various roles at transit agencies around the country, at the U.S. Department of Transportation, as an advocate at Transit Center, and most recently in the private sector at Uber. As widely varied as my experiences have been, a common theme has emerged, which is that public transportation, and especially paratransit, is critical in enabling people with disabilities to live their lives to the fullest. This means that it will be more important than ever for us at the MTA, and more specifically for me and the paratransit team at large, to execute in a way our riders can rely on. I am excited to bring my experience and perspective to the team so that we may work together and deliver the best service possible for our customers. Now, beyond providing our core service, I am also excited to begin the hard work of reimagining the future of paratransit. Being able to travel around the city spontaneously and reliably is a hallmark of the subway and bus service, but historically has not always been a defining feature of paratransit. Now, can we go beyond the original design of paratransit to give riders a more flexible service and experience that they can count on? can we use the technology available today to refashion a service conceived in the 90s to meet the expectations of riders in the 2020s? My team and I are eager to dive into these questions and more. On this note, I would also like to address our customers directly. As an everyday wheelchair user, paratransit rider, and bus and subway rider myself, I know firsthand how important our service is to our lives and how frustrating it can be when the service goes awry. Paratransit and accessible transportation is not theoretical for me, it is a lived experience. You have my commitment that the paratransit team and I will be doing all we can to elevate that experience. Now, before I dive into our January performance summary, I want to thank Craig, Frank, Jano, and Q for bringing me on board and for their commitment to improve paratransit service. I also want to thank Paratransit Deputy Vice President Don Raimondi, who's sitting over there, and the team at 3300 Northern Boulevard for leading the organization through COVID and through the past year of recovery. And also, in honor of Women's History Month, I would like to recognize all the hardworking women at Paratransit whose contributions are vital to the success of our service. January performance continued to build on December's improvements, establishing a new trend that is reversing the performance declines from the fall. These performance improvements held throughout the month of January, as well as in preliminary February results, when ridership was higher, indicating that actions taken by our team to bring on more broker drivers and primary carrier capacity to stabilize and improve service are making a difference. At the end of December, we had approximately 5,700 drivers in the broker program. We increased this to approximately 6,100 by the end of January, and that number continues to increase. For primary carrier service, the 30-minute window for on-time performance is above goal at 98%, an improvement from last month and well off of our low of 90% from the summer. For broker service, the 30-minute window is also above goal at 95%. This is a significant improvement from the low of 2021 when it was at 83% and from December's 90%. Primary carrier no-shows per 1,000 scheduled trips also significantly improved once again, falling 72% from the prior month to 0.52 in January. Broker no-shows also improved, falling in half to 4.29. This contributed to a better call center performance, with calls answered up to 98% in January from 90% the previous month, and call wait times down 86% to an average of 22 seconds. In addition, transportation-related complaints decreased by 62%. Overall, January was a stellar month for paratransit, and preliminary results from February show these levels of performance holding steady with an increase in ridership. While we are cautiously optimistic that we can maintain our performance goals, we will remain vigilant to take action as needed to keep and improve service levels. This concludes our paratransit report.
Thank you, Chris. I know Victor has some questions. Victor?
Thank you, Heda. Thanks, Don, for running us through a new lead. We appreciate all your work and everyone out headquarters at Paratransit. We really do appreciate you, Don. You've been really good in being transparent as you can with me and the community as well. Chris, welcome. Welcome. I know as a person with a disability that you and I ran into each other on an accessible subway stop, which we need more of because then we won't have to rely on paratransit as much. And I welcome the idea of reimagining Accessoride. There's a lot to do, and I want to dig in with you as much as I can. I think we need to look at things differently, and your view of being here at one point, then leaving, going to the private sector and nonprofit organizations working on transit is really going to be able to help to do that. I hope you engage the community a lot more to be able to move forward on all this because I think it's important to even look at the way that our committees are set up. I know that there's been a lot that has been done for paratransit, looking at redesign, looking at brokers differently, increasing drivers, putting out different contracts, rate of pay. The call center calls are down, so that's all good, and I'm excited about that. I do worry that because numbers are down, from Omicron right now, and they aren't at the same number that you were delivering service before Omicron. At least that's what I've been looking at. I just encourage you to be very flexible, to be able to go with the change once the numbers do increase, and that you have a plan in place to be able to make sure that wait times are down, call center calls are answered appropriately, because I think that's really important. So I wish you all the luck. Welcome. I appreciate that. And as far as Craig's announcement before on getting new drivers, if that's going to go public, I want to make sure that there's captioning with that, so people who are deaf and hard of hearing could be able to read that. And as far as the stroller stuff goes, I'm pulling into this. There's one common theme that's really important because accessibility benefits everybody. So if we're able to figure out a way to incorporate strollers onto the system without disenfranchising wheelchair users for the spot, I encourage you to be able to do that. My wife, when she had kids, she dealt with the same problem, being pregnant, having a toddler, and folding up a stroller. Maybe we have to limit the size of strollers that come on. The strollers have gotten a lot bigger. They're like big SUVs. Back when my wife had a stroller, it was a small little fold-up, so maybe that's one of the solutions. But engaging the community, I think, is really important, and making sure the community of parents who use strollers and people with disabilities, making sure that they're together, hearing their voices, and coming up with a plan collectively, I think we'll be able to address that. And with the new buses as well that are coming in, which allow for extra seats to be folded up to get strollers on, I think is important. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Victor. Any other questions for Chris? If not, we'll move over to Q. Q, can you give us an update on accessibility, please?
Absolutely, thank you, and good morning. This is a very exciting time for us and for accessibility throughout the MTA. I am personally thrilled to welcome Chris Pangilinan as our new VP of Paratransit, and I look forward to continuing our partnership with Chris and his entire team at Paratransit to deliver quality service for our Access2Ride customers that provides the reliability and flexibility that they need to get to work, to school, and everywhere else that New Yorkers go each day. Enhancing accessibility here at the MTA is my top priority, and I am proud of the work that the team and I have been doing in this last year. That has included looking at gaps throughout our network, especially at Columbus Circle, we hear you, and of course our AutoGate opening up for all users, such as parents, because accessibility truly is universal, as we just heard from the Commissioner. We also have some great news for more than 1 million seniors and customers with disabilities on our reduced fare MetroCard programs. We will begin to roll out Omni for reduced fare customers this summer, including the option to pay with your own contactless cards, debit or credit, or smartphone or payment device. If you are a reduced fare customer and are excited to make the switch to Omni, please visit reducedfare.mta.info and let us know. We are building a list of reduced fare MetroCard customers who want to be amongst the first to switch over to Omni, and we will reach out to those customers directly as soon as Omni becomes available later this summer. Thanks for helping us get the word out about making this important and exciting benefit come to life for our reduced fare program. As part of the Transit Innovation Partnership with the Transit Tech Lab Challenge, we continue to test a new program that allows low vision and blind bus riders to use their smartphones to find bus stops and get important arrival information and service info. With assistance from the New York City Department of Transportation, signs along the M23 SBS bus routes display a colorful decal that allows for use of a free app called Navilence to get to this information and service accessible in a variety of formats. The Navilence app uses cutting-edge algorithm to translate visual signage into audio and allows customers to determine the accurate location and distance to the nearest bus stop, find out when the next bus will arrive, know how crowded that bus is if the bus has crowding sensor technology on board, and to be directed onto the bus when it pulls to the stop. We announced this test during COVID, and we are excited to now welcome customers to test this app and give us their feedback. As more and more riders return to transit, including our SBS service, we are actively collecting their feedback on this program and encourage all who are interested to download the app, check it out, and send us your thoughts at accessibility@mtahq.org. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Q. Any questions or comments? Victor?
This is my hot topic. So thank you, Quamel, for that feedback on Navilence. I know that, Craig, that was one of the first things you and I did together when I first came into the board. So it's good to see that it's extended through the corridor, and especially as we redesign buses and bus stops, finding the bus stops aren't as easy as they used to be. So it's good that this will help blind and low vision riders, and I hope to see this expanded throughout the system as we move forward. And Auto gates, certainly working well. I know the numbers are up going through the auto gates. So again, accessibility is for everybody. And I thank you for your work.
One thing I omitted, Chris will be following up in the coming months to talk about Omni for paratransit and Access-Ride customers, and I'm really excited about that, Chris.
And the follow-up on Omni, is that that we're actually going to have that done? It's really going to happen this summer? Because it's been pushed out a lot. I mean, we built the system, and we didn't include people with disabilities, and that's why it's taken so long. So are you going to give us a firm date on that?
It's
Not
been
a firm date.
I'm not going to give a firm date, Commissioner, I'm sorry. But it has been a Herculean act to ensure that all our customers have the option for Omni. We're working very closely with our revenue team, the Omni PMO, and this summer is our time frame for Omni to come to reduced fare customers.
Yeah, because we need to build systems with accessibility in mind, so we're not doing this backtracking. Thank you.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, thank you, Q. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah for an update on strategy and customer experience.
Good morning, everyone. So the strategy and customer experience team is continuing to monitor the Mta Best Fares program and our campaign to bring awareness about the agency's new fare incentives. Fare capping, or Lucky 13, as we've been calling it, internally at least, gives customers free trips for the remainder of their week after taking 12 rides on Omni using the same smartwatch or smart device, smartphone, or contactless credit or debit cards. The free trips happen automatically, so no need to pay for that 7-day upfront, making the offering more flexible, more affordable, and more fair. There are some new tools designed and developed to help explain Omni, since I know it is not the most easiest thing to grasp, including new videos that are now on our website and a fare calculator that's available at fares.mta.info. Tomorrow marks our 19th Mask Force event, with volunteers headed throughout the 5 boroughs to hand out free masks to riders who need them. With the extension of the federal mask requirement through April 18th, masks are still required on all trains and buses and when within indoor stations. In February, we began rolling out our new call center technology with modern workforce management tools. Our New York City Transit call center agents are the first to use this new software that will be utilized by all call center employees at the MTA. It will improve and give an enhanced telephone experience for customers, getting information to customers more quickly and faster and with more accessibility features. In February, 84.5% of our calls were answered, and average customer call wait times were about 3.3 minutes, 33% lower than the 12-month rolling average. We're still fighting against that tide of those vacancies that we've had in our call center for a while, as well as an increased number of retirements. So we're still fighting to get back to our normal average times. We're hoping to get there in the next couple of months. On the open data front, we're happy to have released and published 30 new data sets that are now available on the state open data portal. The state will be publishing additional data sets in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for new releases available there. As we are continuing to ask our customers what they are seeing in the subway system, customer complaints about subway service in February were up 5.27 per 100,000 journey, 7.8% higher than in February 2021. We continue to work daily, as Chairman mentioned, with city and state partners to address safety and security concerns. Bus complaints stayed level at 11.95 per 100,000 journeys, a 4.7 year-on-year improvement. That concludes my remarks, and I'll happy to be taking any questions.
Any questions for Sarah? If not, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Judy, you're going to discuss an operations issue.
Yes, almost afternoon. Good morning. Wanted to alert you that we are having to replace 7 switches on the R line between 86th Street and 95th Street. These switches are at the end of their useful life, and replacing them will help us improve reliability. However, when we do this work, we are going to have to suspend subway service between 59th Street and 36th Street. 59th Street and 95th Street. These outages will begin tonight at 11:45. The nightly outages will go until 5 a.m. These will continue through June 17th. In addition, there's going to be 8 weekends where we're going to have to suspend service between 59th and 95th Streets. Those weekends start the weekend of April 16th, and they'll continue through June 6th. In order to provide continuing service to our customers, we'll be providing a shuttle bus operation between 59th Street and 95th Street. The shuttle bus will be stopping at all our stops, our stations between 59th and 95th Street in Bay Ridge. In terms of frequency, the bus shuttle will operate Saturdays and Sundays approximately every 2 minutes, early evenings about every 4 minutes, and then late nights between 10 and 20 minutes. We also will be out, staff will be out monitoring service to ensure that we're meeting our customers' needs, and will adjust service as necessary to ensure that continues. Our government and community relations folks have informed elected officials and community boards about these upcoming service diversions. Signage is already up in the station about the overnight closure, and we will continue to put up signs as needed as this project progresses. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, I just
Excuse
want
me,
to.
David, then Andrew.
Okay. Raise the question. The board itself wasn't informed by text or email about this, so it's a little upsetting to watch New York 1 and have something rather significant announced that the board itself was not aware of. I don't want to, add to your requirements, but if you've talked to elected officials and others, certainly the board of MTA should be first in line to hear about this, so we don't look completely ignorant. Thank you.
So, Commissioner, I just want to make a comment to that, and I appreciate your comment. We do have a process by which we do communicate, what we consider major service disruptions to the board. But with that said, recognizing that this then became, more out there in the press and the public, we'll reevaluate that and figure out how we can do a better job. But thank you.
Andrew?
Thank you, and thank you, Judy, for the report. Can you tell me what N trains are doing during this period of R trains not running?
The Ns will be providing their normal service.
Via bridge?
On the weekends, they'll probably be going through the tunnel to make up for the R. But I can get back to you, make sure that's the right information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judy. I'm now going to welcome Tim Dotto to give us our safety and security report. Oh, yes, sorry, Tim. Yes, Andrew.
For the immediacy, because Clark Street Station is closed until April due to the elevator replacement, it probably would be a good idea if the ends were making Court Street and through the tunnel until at least Clark Street is restored.
Thank you, that's a good point.
Okay, Tim.
Good afternoon. When comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one, subway customer accident rates decreased, and these rates have decreased each month since March 2021. Bus collisions and collision injuries increased while customer accidents were relatively flat when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one. However, bus collision injuries decreased noticeably when compared to the most recent pre-pandemic period. Employee lost time accidents showed a decrease when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one. We have seen an increase in subway fires when comparing the last 12-month period to the previous one. Debris fires have seen a slight decline due to subways continuing cleaning and utilization of vacuum trains. This concludes my comments. Chief Wilcox, would you mind giving a quorum report?
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 12:02.
First off, I want to thank the chair for mentioning the anniversary of the tragic death of Garrett Goebel. When I was in the Detective Bureau, I responded to that incident, to that crime scene, and the destruction I saw in that station was shocking. The significance of that incident is very real to me, and I personally, I look very hard at any incidents that we encounter in the system of arson, criminal mischief by fire, anything like that. I take a great interest in those. We've made we've arrested 15 individuals for arson this year, for setting fires. This is a focus that will not waver. Just the masks, it was mentioned, I'll just mention it right up front. Obviously, I direct and I expect my executives in my districts and my commands to lead by example and wear masks and get it down to the officers. I have my mask here. I believe in it. We're all looking forward to that day when we don't have to wear them anymore, but obviously, we will continue to pound that message forward, that we have to wear a mask until that day. So, we're continuing our mission as the ridership returns, hopefully to normalcy soon, not just to keep the ridership safe, but to make them feel safe. To make them feel safe. Our presence, our uniform presence is very important in aspect on that. So I want to give you a little update on the subway safety plan that was, the mayor, introduced it at Fulton Street Station going back end of February. So one of the key elements of that subway safety plan is homelessness in the subway system. And, thank you, President Cipriano, for mentioning the work that's being done. So I just want to mention, since February 21st, our members, our Transit Bureau members, have been going out twice a day, every day, 7 days a week, with joint response teams, which include obviously our members, but members of home DHS, health and mental hygiene, nurses, certified clinicians, a really strong collaborative team effort. Going out riding the trains, a difficult task to be sure. The hard work of these teams, I believe, sends a very powerful message about our shared commitment to helping the homeless. So, since the 21st of February, we've escorted over 400 of these joint response teams on the train. We've done over 1,200 train runs with them. Hundreds of homeless New Yorkers have been contacted on the train, and that effort continues, and it is expanding. As President Cipriano mentioned, we now have expanded to do work at 4 end-of-the-line stations. Our NYPD members are specifically tasked with 2 of them in Brooklyn, and we're about 12 days into that effort. We started that on March 17th, and we've inspected over 600 trains, and over 100 members have been males and females have been taken to shelter from those end-of-the-line stations. And that's really just the beginning. It's a powerful effort being put forth, but it's so important, and we're going to continue this effort moving forward. Other things that we're doing to address the homeless situation in the subways is we're working very closely with the MTA. The Safe and Secure Room Unit, we've done joint operations with them, and we're going to continue to do so, and we're encountering homeless individuals that are deep in the tunnels, deep in the cutouts. You don't see them because they're invisible, but they're there. And we've done 2 operations just in the last few weeks with them, one at Delancey, Essex, where we went in to the station with members of the MTA, and there was the male had built sort of a small structure in the cutout. And when we approached him, he started, we deployed the train, we all stepped out, and he started swinging a wire at the officers as they responded. And they had to use mace to stop that. He was taken into custody safely, no injuries to anybody, thank goodness. But we're going to continue these operations. So, thank you for the joint collaboration on that effort as well. And we're going to continue on that. Encampments. One thing we've done when we get 911 or 311 calls of a homeless encampment in the system, and it can be where a structure is there, or mattresses, or multiple bags, or it can just be multiple outstretched. We're tracking these daily. An immediate response from the concerned district is put out, and we've implemented a system of review the next day where the patrol supervisor on the morning after has to go back to that location and review the situation to see, one, that it's been corrected, and two, that it has not returned. So this is something we're continuing to do, and we're putting a lot of focus on this. As the president mentioned, we've added 4 police officers to the rail control center to assist our supervisors that have been there for many years to sort of work with the MTA to track these 311 and 911 calls of homeless situations to make sure what were the dispositions, how was it handled correctly, and that's helping us as well put eyes on this issue. So one thing I definitely, information is so valuable in when you're dealing with the homeless. I do encourage people when they see significant homeless conditions in the subway to call 311, let us know about it. It gives us a chance, one, to respond. It gives us also an opportunity to review that information and track it and put it together and then build on that as we coordinate with our partners at DHS and the BRC. So that's very important. We need that information. So another important aspect of the subway safety plan, and it's already been touched on a little bit this morning, is quality of life. Quality of life for the riders that take that train. And we are addressing it. We're stepping up our enforcement in this. We're going to continue to do so. When you look at from the beginning of the subway safety plan, which will mark, say, February 21st to the present, we've issued over 6,600 theft of service summonses. And that's an effort that's going to continue. But there's the other quality of life summonses that adversely affect the people on those trains. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about smoking, drinking, urination, outstretched. Those adversely affect the other riders in those train cars. So it's been mentioned to me by several people about the importance of smoking, that they've seen an increase in it, and we're trying to address it. We've issued over 1,200 summonses this year for smoking, for tab summonses in the system. And we're not going to waver on that. Drinking, over 700. Obstruction of seats, over 500. So this is going to continue. And we're going to keep pushing this until it goes away, so the riders don't have to experience this. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about crime right now. So we're experiencing increases in crime compared to last year's numbers, which is indicative of the fact that the ridership is growing. Last year at this time, the ridership was significantly decreased because of what was happening in our city. So we have about 500 index crimes we've recorded this year, which is a 75% increase versus the same period last year. But when you take the same period this year and you compare it to pre-COVID, go back to 2019, we're actually down 24% compared to those pre-COVID numbers. We're up in robberies this year, we're up in grand larcenies this year. But if you looked at it versus in the 2-year context, we'd actually be down 25% in robbery and about 38% in grand larceny. So that's a context, that, it needs to be acknowledged. But that doesn't in any way take away from the really focused effort we're putting forth to fight crime in the transit system. And that's not going to change. All our officers and all our commanding officers are fully invested in this effort. So another aspect of the subway safety plan, we've created a subway safety task force. It's new. It's only been in existence maybe 9 or 10 days now. There's about over 30 members into it. They're turning out of the Metropolitan Avenue train station in Brooklyn. They're overseen by Captain Tin Mai, who, besides being a very skilled and experienced transit executive, she also has prior NYPD experience in the homeless outreach unit. So that's a multifaceted unit that's going to be addressing homelessness, but also significant quality of life. They're going to be an asset to the districts when they encounter persistent problems, to our neighborhood coordination officers. They're going to go out and assist them. If they have a homeless condition where BRC is not available or DH is not available, they're going to go out and assist them and abate that problem. And hopefully, the goal is always, when you're dealing with the homeless, always support, service, shelter. And that's the goal when we deal with the homeless. So that's a new unit. We expect it to expand in the coming months with more personnel, and hopefully it will be a fully, robust a platform as we move into the summer months. One crime that does trouble me a lot is we've seen a lot of felony assaults in the system this year. And that includes, unfortunately, assaults on MTA employees. We've recorded in the area of 17 assaults on MTA employees. Any incident like that obviously reaches the highest level. I look at all of them. I look at every assault on an MTA employee and make sure that the effort, the response is strong and the investigation is vigorous. We've had 130 incidents of felony assault so far in the transit system this year. 51% of those do have arrests attached to them, but any incident like that causes great concern, and that's something we're going to continue, obviously, to focus on. Arson was mentioned before, unacceptable, and will be vigorously looked at. I do want to I have to acknowledge and I mentioned it the last time, the power of the MTA camera systems, and I thank you for that. And just recently, 2 incidents that really caught I've looked at that where your cameras played such a pivotal role. One was a crime that really shocked, I think, the city and made me so angry when I watched the video, was the incident in the Bronx at 241st Street where the woman was smeared with feces. That incident was captured on MTA cameras. That helped solve that crime quickly. About, not yesterday, but last Sunday, we took a shooting in the station in Brooklyn, Pitkin Avenue on the Sea, incident captured on video, arrest made. So thank you for this. The cameras that you provide to us are so invaluable to our investigations, and they help us all keep us safe. So as we move into the spring, I just want to end on a couple things obviously we're looking at. One, it's the end of the school year. So we're reviewing right now all our school plans, our safe passage plans, our deployment at these stations as the kids begin the end of the school year, particularly at the high schools. We want to make sure that there's a strong uniform presence, that we're riding safe passage trains with these kids. We want to keep them safe. We want it to be a safe end of the school year for everybody. You're also going to see a very robust, visible uniform presence at the upcoming baseball opening days, Yankee Stadium, which I believe is April 7th, and I keep wanting to call it Shea Stadium, but Citi Field on April 15th. You're going to see us out there in strong numbers to keep you safe. One thing I've stressed from the day one, and I continue, is uniform train patrol, uniform presence. It keeps people safe, and it makes people feel safe, and we're going to continue that. So I'm just going to end on this number. Since February 21st, our officers have taken 36,000 train runs to the present. It's a 28% increase. We know 54% of our crime happens on the train. That's where we need to be, and that's where we're going to be. So I'm going to end right there, and thank you for your time, and if you have any questions.
So before we go into questions, Chief, I just want to say thank you for the thorough report, and thank you. I just believe with the governor, the mayor, you, NYPD, everyone here at the MTA working together, we make things safer for the customer and the employees. And I just want to thank you for what I believe is moving everything in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. I wonder, is our camera coverage enough? I know it can always be better, but in your opinion, should we be doing more of that?
So I know there are thousands of cameras out there, particularly, in the key hubs. When it comes to cameras, obviously more is better. It helps us out in so many significant ways. It helps us, at our command center, at our wheel, we're watching. It's constantly rotating. We're watching turnstiles at Barclays and then Fulton and then 34th Street. We're monitoring those Gen-Tech cameras, but also those deployables and other cameras that we have out there are so valuable. So from an investigative point of view, from an old detective, obviously more cameras are I'll never say no to that.
Okay, but my question is more is better, but do we need significantly more?
I mean,
Why don't you answer that?
Yeah,
Because
maybe I
there
could
are
help
a lot
with
of
that.
cameras.
No, well, I mean, right now, we do have cameras in every station. In the capital program, there's millions of dollars programmed for the, we call them the PID cameras, the ones that stream back to the transit wheel, the operation center. But I think when Sarah was here, we said, we couldn't wait for the rollout, so we put in these deployable. I think that's what that she was referencing. With that said, we think that it was still opportunities to further the deployable camera program, and Pat and Bobby Deal, not here, are putting together a proposal to continue that while, the PID type cameras get installed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Right, I think Jamie overlapped when Sarah left, and, we were pushing for more cameras to make sure that they're in the right places. But, Randy.
Welcome, Chief, the first time I get to see you in person.
Nice to see you, sir.
Offline, you could provide to the staff where you need these, where there's, cameras are lacking offline, of course, so they can put that into the program to get the cameras you need.
I'm thankful for the cameras we have, but sure, we will definitely talk.
Yeah, this is like
David, Victor, Andrew.
always meeting. We obviously know, I've had concerns about the summonses and arrests going on in the subways, and not so much on the buses, which is not under your supervision. But the issues of cameras in buses to try to deter the theft of services problem, to more equitably determine who in hell gets arrested and tab summons, is something that concerns me, that we obviously have a pattern, and I don't mean to beat up on Staten Island, but there's been a history there of ignoring paying fees for buses and the light rail, or not light rail, I always get it wrong. It's Staten Island Rail. So I'm wondering if cameras, I think, are only partially deployed on buses, but both to safeguard the drivers and to obviously more equalize the enforcement of fare evasion issues, that we might consider expansion there. Correct?
Yeah, sure, if I may, Chief. So on the bus side, as you said, I mean, we do have cameras in every one of our buses, right? Just about. I think it's close to 5,000 now. But what we've been doing most recently, we developed a report, not so much using the cameras, but the passenger counters, right? We have the automated passenger counters, and we have developed a report that compares the passenger counters, both on the front and rear door to the MetroCard receipts. And Pat Warren, MTA PD, who stepped up their patrol of buses, has been using that report to try to focus in on some of the high fare evasion areas we see. And we'll continue to, to roll that out.
Victor.
So thanks, Chief. I appreciate you with the numbers. And it was interesting to hear you say, or just to make note that crime is still down since pre-pandemic numbers. So that I think that's important. And that's a testament to some of the work you're doing now as well. You did mention something about, you said 54% of the crime is happening in the subway. Is that all? Yeah, if you can just clarify that.
When I look at crime year to date, we try to really get granular on these type of things and try to be specific where it's happening. It helps with our deployment. So what I mentioned on the train, we're looking at over 50%, around 54% occurs on the train, and then it breaks it down even further. Like it would be like 26% on the platform, 10% on the mezzanine, and then it drills down even further.
And thank you for clarifying that. And then secondly is, what's the percentage of crime that's happening in the subways compared to, let's say, on the streets? Or just, the city overall? Do you have that number? And if you don't now, that's fine.
Well, I mean, I'll give you it's a number, because I do look at it. The raw number of transit crime, when you compare to all crime in New York City, it accounts for about 2%.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Morning, Chief, and thanks for all of your efforts and your people's efforts. It's important that we get people comfortable riding the trains. Our subways and buses and commuter rail system is what's going to bring New York back, obviously. Do you have any statistics? I mean, obviously the MTA is not a social service agency, but do we know either from BRC or HHS or anyone when we've gotten people to services, the homeless folks that you mentioned earlier, whether they stay or whether they are returning to the system in a couple of days, or does anyone do any follow-up?
That's really in the world of Commissioner Jenkins, DHS, DSS. I don't want to guess. I would be a guess on that. I don't want to go there.
I'll research further. And the other thing I want to say is, you went through your statistics, but fare evasion is out of control now. I take rides every day, and I see it on every ride, through the slam gate, over the turnstiles. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. Are your officers looking at that? Because that would also control some of the other crimes taking place.
And I couldn't agree more. So, I don't like to throw numbers out, but we've issued 16,000 fare evasion summons in the subway this year, and that's since January 1st through Friday. So I mean, it's definitely a problem. The mayor has mentioned it. He acknowledges it. We acknowledge it, and we're trying. We're going to keep pushing. Citywide. Wherever we come across these issues, we're going to keep pushing it. We're not going to relent on this. We're going to try to restore a sense of calm. And I mentioned this to the city council. We need to restore a sense of calm to the system.
Absolutely. And just as an aside, I remember an IG Inspector General report pre-COVID that estimated $300 million loss per year. That's a lot of service we could be providing.
Yes, sir.
Do Bob Lynn and then David Jones. Sorry.
So, Chief, thank you for the presentation, and I do want to commend, I think, the work that Jano has done of bringing all the parties together. Mm-hmm. Such a very different situation from that of half a year ago, months ago, where everyone was everyone's throat. It is so wonderful to see the cooperative spirit here. And as someone who's been saying for over a year at this point that I thought this really was a tremendous interdisciplinary problem, that it's not just police, NYPD police, it's MTA police, it's civilians, it's contractors, and I want to express a incredibly strong proponent of cameras was Sarah Feinberg, who pushed for going forward. So, I mean, so there was a major series of efforts that come together here. And I want to express something that I've expressed a couple of months ago and get your sense. I am concerned with all of these wonderful programs going on, all the task forces going on. Is there sufficient coordination of what everyone is doing, and what is the best way to coordinate? And some are homeless, some are social workers, some is health and hospitals, some is state, and there's so many actors who all have a central role in this technology, and what should be our technological input in doing this. I'm concerned that there needs to be a central person responsible, or central group responsible for this, and what's your thoughts of how we can get there?
Well, I mean, obviously.
Right,
Oh, I'm
Chief,
sorry.
I don't want to put words in the chief's mouth, but it seems to me like the chief is doing a tremendous job coordinating or orchestrating all this. And I think we just, and Chief, I don't know if you want to add to that, but you've been incredible pulling everyone together.
So we literally, we talk every day with the MTA. I talk almost every day with Commissioner Jenkins from DHS. The subway safety plan, you know, we were always working, coordinating, but we've taken it to a new level of just the daily interaction, the daily coordination. We were all on a Zoom meeting yesterday with the mayor, and we've done this, I think, 3 Sundays in a row, and we critique and we discuss how we're handling the homeless issues in our city. So to that point, we've come a long way in few weeks. We're much stronger now.
Yeah, thank you. David?
Yeah, this is not directed exclusively at the chief. I'm wondering what the outcome of tab summonses are. Essentially, how many actually are paid? How many are just in the default and no one shows up?
Right.
And how many result in essentially stepping up to misdemeanor or more serious things? I get an impression, at least from some of the earlier research we did, particularly for tab summonses for fare evasion in poor neighborhoods, that the yield is extraordinarily low of people who actually, if they didn't pay $275, either because they were flaunting things or just couldn't afford it. What happens? What is your sense, Chief, of where this goes?
I don't, you know what, in terms of the revenue downstream, I really don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's why it shouldn't really be to you. I think we have to talk to MTA. There has been, or I've raised issues that, particularly when you're dealing with low-income people, there are other means of having a tab summons sort of serviced. In other problems that occur in society, people can watch a video and have to take a couple hours out of their day to wipe out that particular record if they can't afford it. Being forced to watch an hour-long video on the dangers of getting a tab summons or a record might be worth it as an experiment, at least. I'm just trying to figure out ways so we start to sort out people who are doing this out of economic problems, people who are just flaunting, as Andrew talks about all the time, in business suits, and trying to figure out how we can better come to grips with this and have a more impactful result, which doesn't sweep into, the net people who perhaps shouldn't be, that there may be some off-ramp for them in order to stop them from exhibiting this kind of behavior. That's not to you, Chief. I'm just trying to
Understood, thank you.
Well, thank you all for a very productive conversation on safety in the subways. So we're going to move on. We don't have any transit procurements this month, right, Craig?
Yes, there are no transit procurements this month.
So there's no other business. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Randy, David, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.